series. So here we go. Virginia Caroline Rappe, a beautiful silent film actress and model, attended a party in San Francisco at the St. Francis Hotel. Although this was during Prohibition, this 3-day party had no trouble finding liquor. The story that takes place during this party not only involves the end of a career of Hollywood's biggest comedian, but the death of one of its rising stars. By most accounts, Virginia was a bit of a party girl, and this party had a lot of alcohol to provide. So much, in fact, that the hotel ran out of liquor and they had to go find liquor somewhere else. So what does a 1920s hotel party look like? Well, it looks something like this. This photo was taken by police during the investigation. This was shortly after the party and the aftermath that was left. The man responsible for the party was Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, one of Hollywood's biggest comedians of his time. He performed with the likes of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. But after this party, he was simply known as the man who killed Virginia Rappe. By some accounts, this is what happened. Virginia left the party to an adjacent room. This was actually Fatty Arbuckle's room. Shortly after, Fatty went into his room as well. Minutes later, Fatty Arbuckle returned to the party in a bit of a panic, stating that Miss Rappe needed help and she was sick. 2 days later, she died in the hospital. Their time alone fueled suspicion. Statements were then made to police, which then eventually led to the arrest of Fatty Arbuckle. Fatty spent the next few weeks in jail. He was awaiting bail, and the entire time he was maintaining his innocence. But Fatty was also facing trial on another front. He was facing a trial of public opinion. The newspapers were all skewed against him. They had all condemned him and stated that he committed the murder. Fatty Arbuckle had to endure 3 trials to finally be acquitted for the murder of Virginia Rappe. By his statement, he entered his room, found her sick on the floor in the bathroom. He picked her up on her request and took her to the bed. He then asked for help and a doctor was called to the room. The doctor believed Miss Rappe had just drinking too much. Although he was found innocent, Fatty Arbuckle was blacklisted in Hollywood. Although it was very hard, Fatty was on his way to making a comeback in Hollywood. On the day that he died, he actually signed a contract with Warner Brothers to do a feature film. But the question still remains, what actually happened to Virginia Rappe? How did she die? Was Fatty Arbuckle just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or did he get away with murder?
Are we all thinking the same thing? It sounds like somebody could have used Tom's invention.
Yeah, no.
See?
I thought that as well. I really did.
But really, I couldn't take it. I gotta ask, how come you couldn't do that voice when we were doing the mockumentaries? You know,
I don't know what you're talking about.
When we were doing the truth documentaries, you actually sounded like you were doing a documentary right there.
Yeah, well, I was. So
I tell you what, I'm recording my next segment like that. I like, but I like it.
What kind of
It's fun.
what kind of sick one-upsmanship are you doing by telling us by doing that?
I got editing software and I had time, so this is going to be an ongoing thing with this segment.
I like it though. It's good.
It's okay. So
And really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So this is highly regarded as Hollywood's first ever like big scandal. Okay, because you had an up-and-coming starlet that dies at a party. This party, like, it was a 3-day party, and
yeah, they partied like rock stars. I saw the pictures.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. They destroyed that room. But okay, so she becomes sick. She goes into the room that was Fatty's room. He finds her, and he's alone with her, and that's where the first big issue is nobody besides Fatty knows what's happened in that room. And so you really come up with the question of, did he do it or didn't he do it? What really, I guess, kind of brought this together, and what I didn't mention in the video is that her autopsy, they tried to suggest that she died because she had a ruptured bladder. So the Miss Rappe, her manager, tried to say that he used a foreign object and had raped her with it. Well, they suggested that she had a abortion, and back then, that was kind of a back alley kind of thing.
Way taboo. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the autopsy had listed that there was no signs of an abortion or a childbirth ever happening. But I also think they had zoned in on him at that time, that they weren't looking. And I think because even in the autopsy, it names Fatty Arbuckle as the person that probably did it. I mean, who puts that in the autopsy? I mean, seriously.
Well, nobody now. That's a different time.
Yeah. So it was originally suggested, and this has been in different types of lore, but it was originally suggested that he used a piece of ice, and then it got turned into a Coke bottle. And so if you've ever heard the story about somebody using a Coke bottle that killed somebody, that was where it came from, basically.
But what all could he have done?
I mean, to puncture a bladder.
You said it was only like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was only a few minutes. So
how could he have done all that in like 2 minutes?
The only reason the police focused on him in the beginning was there was a eyewitness that said on her Miss Rappe's dying words was that he killed me, and suggesting Fatty Arbuckle did it. Well, the woman that said this, they couldn't even bring her into trial as a witness because she had a rap sheet a mile long, and she changed her story 15 times. She told every tabloid in the world that would listen her story, and it was different each time. So it's kind of like, who do you believe at this point?
Now, how did he die? Did he die of a heart attack?
He died of a heart attack.
Okay.
So and that's the other sad part was his original contract was, I believe it was with Warner Brothers, and this was back in 1921, and they provided the attorneys for the first trial. And I believe the second trial was on his dime. And then the third trial, Buster Keaton actually forked out the cash to pay for his attorneys. And Buster Keaton,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And Buster Keaton, actually, they were such good friends. You know the stuff that Keaton would do where like the part of a building would fall down and he would be standing.
The window would go over him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the exact same things that Fatty would do. Fatty Arbuckle did the exact same things. He worked in several movies with Buster Keaton.
Well, Fatty Arbuckle did a movie with him, didn't he? Where Fatty Arbuckle was the cook.
Yeah, he did. They did movies together, and he was with Charlie Chaplin, and they both spoke out for him. But then it was, I guess, taboo to do so because the studios didn't want them thinking, well, the studio is supporting Fatty Arbuckle because they didn't have any real support in him. They let him go on his contract for non-compete while he was in jail. So like he couldn't not non-compete, but he couldn't for not acting in a movie, basically, or not being available. So they just used that to get him to fire him, basically. And I think it was 1931. So this is like 10 years later after the trials. He finally gets another contract with Warner Brothers to do a feature film, and he dies that night. So
damn,
that is really sad. I honestly, to me, I think Fatty was framed. I think that they had no real evidence, and I don't think there's really time to do the crime. I mean, to kill her, because they were trying to suggest that he killed her with his weight. So he crushed her.
Oh,
so he belly flopped on her?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, she was on the bed and he jumped on her, very
maybe, but I don't see it.
Brace yourself, I'm coming in, doll.
Yeah. But
I mean, I belly flopped on a girl one time. She
oh my goodness.
Coming in. Oh. But yeah, it's a sad story, and one that will never really be solved. I am in the camp of probably an abortion gone wrong. So that's sad,
and at that time, nobody would want to put that in the news, especially when it's like a big name like that. Mm-hmm. They would want to protect the name. That is a serious taboo. And it's sad that might happen, and that this man might catch a case just to keep that taboo covered up.
Yeah, in the 90s, Chris Farley actually wanted to do a movie about this, and he wanted to star in it, and they had gotten a director together, but that was sadly right before he passed away. So it would have been
Chris Farley in a drama like that.
Yeah, it was going to be his first real drama movie. So,
I don't know. I watched the backstory of Chris Farley's life. I think that dude would have nailed a drama.
I've seen it. I've seen a lot of documentaries on how he was and stuff like that. But I've never been able to focus on anything besides his little slapstick comedies that he's done.
Which he nailed. He was awesome. He was an amazing actor. I love that guy.
Of course, the best dramatic actors are awesome comedic actors, because it takes more to make you laugh than it does to make you cry.
Yeah, I could see that.
Robin Williams, great dramatic actor, but he is the best comedic actor.
But wouldn't that make Adam Sandler the greatest actor ever?
Did you see the end of that remote movie?
No.
Yes, I have, and
it was pretty dramatic. I mean,
quite dramatic, but it shouldn't have happened. No offense to Sandler, but that dude is only comedy.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean, but on another note, I mean, look at Jim Carrey and Man in the Moon. I mean, he was great in that.
23. Nailed 23.
Yeah, 23 was great. We actually talked about that the other day. I like that movie.
And then, who else is there? Tom Hanks was a very funny actor to begin with in his early days.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's like a 9 million time Oscar winner.
Yeah. Okay.